Hi everybody, this is Lee at Fresh Astrology, and you're about to view your second quarter forecast for the year 2019. That means that I will be reviewing April, May, and June for each sign. Before we start though, if you do want to find me online for a reading or for a life coaching session, you can go to www.freshastrology.com. If you are interested in starting your own business and want support around that, you can find my other business, tribetripsandretreats.com, at www.tribetripsandretreats.com to find out more and join us there. All right, onward, here we go. Hi Aquarius, this is Lee at Fresh Astrology. How are you? So we're taking a look at the second quarter of 2019, which means we're looking at April, May, and June. And if you've never seen me before, I look at astrology in a different way, somewhat different. I really focus on and want to have more conversation around how each individual can be more empowered and feel more empowered to take charge of their own lives or help guide their own destinies, not to feel at the mercy of the sun, the moon, the planets, but to use them as information, as guides, but to learn how to step into your own power. That's what my focus is. So if you want to hear more about that, stay tuned. If not, that's okay. This is just a different way of looking at things. So we talk a lot about feelings and how to, make decisions. That's really where the conversation is. So anyway, if we look at the next 3 months and we look at Mars, I'm going to focus on Mars for this particular forecast, and just look at where your energy is going. This is where your energy will naturally want to go. It's cyclical. Mars does show where we have energy available to us. It can show up in a variety of ways when it shows up as energy. It can show up as people energy, relationship energy, but it's also our own personal energy, our willingness and drive in certain areas. So right at the beginning of April, the average Aquarius person is going to have a lot of drive and energy going into matters having to do with children in many cases. So if you have children or grandchildren who need your attention, you have the energy there to deal with it. You also have a lot of energy to start relationships, start romantic relationships, get out on the dating scene, put yourself out there. There's a little more courage to get out there. There's a lot of energy that you can apply to creative projects or starting new ventures, like a new business. So there's just this big burst of energy that you can use in a lot of fun ways, because the fifth house is fun. So it's a fun time to apply your energy to fun. Then later in the quarter, kind of mid-May onward, the energy shifts and goes more into your health zone and work zone. So after having a lot of fun, hopefully, in the first part of the quarter, you turn your attention to taking care of your health, tackling any projects that need to be tackled, managing your schedule, or maybe starting a new job for some of you. Or if you are building a business, you have your own business endeavor, then maybe it turns into where before it's just kind of like play and you're getting it, your ideas flowing. Then in mid-May through June, it's more about really working it. Sometimes we have to play with ideas and then we have to market them or somehow make it more real after we've done all the creative, fun brainstorming stuff. So it could be that kind of trajectory for you, or some of you are starting a new job. And but a great time to have fun and then work on your health and take care of yourself. It's kind of a fun place to have Mars. Then it's good to just remember that we've had Uranus do a big switch and change of energy, and it's gone over a very pivotal part of your chart. It's gone over the very base point of the chart for Aquarius. So a lot of you are finding that you're facing issues around family, parents, moving. You could be the parent in this case, but it could also be your parents, or a family home, or a change of property, buying a vacation property, being torn between two locations, two homes, and then making decisions around that, shakeups that happen in the family and in your family life and in your home life. Some big changes have been going on over the last year within you, maybe outside of you, and then there's some decisions that are being made, some bigger, more obvious changes being made to the world of family and home. So it's going to mean something different based on your age. Just depends on your situation, but I imagine a lot of you have issues around moving, where your home's going to be, where are you going to live, questions, issues and questions. What's going on with the family members, making decisions around family, that kind of thing. And that will be a theme that goes on for the next 7 years. And it's a time in life when you become a little more, it's not, it's weird because Uranus is your patron planet. But what used to be your patron planet? Saturn. And your home zone is really governed by an earth sign and Taurus. So in a lot of ways, as footloose and fancy-free as an Aquarius person can seem sometimes, and as independent and willing to travel and come and go very easily, an Aquarius in their heart of hearts really wants a pretty strong home base, and they want their home to be comfortable. And so it's a little, even though it's your patron planet, and you've got this kind of this image and this MO of being like footloose, like you can come and go and you can travel and kind of breezier than other people are about moving around. There's a truth that down there that's really kind of different than what people would think. You love your home, and you like to have a very stationary, safe feeling home. And for Uranus to come in here, it really does shake things up. Now, a couple of things could be happening. You could be shaken up for the first time and feel upended, like your home life is upended. Or you could find that for the first time in your life, you don't really care where you live. For the first time in your life, you're like, I could just put everything in storage and just go. Surprisingly, and because Uranus is nothing if not the planet of surprise and unexpected. So whatever's going on with your home, whatever disrupts your home situation, it could be that emotionally you don't really care. You're kind of going with it in a way that's unique for you. It's different from the way you grew up because, generally speaking, an Aquarius person really does love a steady home base. They want to know that the home is there, it's waiting for them. They're very attached to a stable home feeling. And now you're like, home is where your hat is, unexpectedly. And so for some, it's going to be a little more emotionally disruptive. But I have this feeling, because it's your patron planet, a lot of you are just, without warning, without understanding that things have changed so much for you and emotionally, you just don't really care. You could live, in this town one day and go to another town the next day and totally fine emotionally, and unexpectedly. So that's new. You may not have felt that yet. You may not see it coming, but a lot of you are going to really change the way you think of home. And it's just going to be a very new experience. And it will, the purpose is to help you move to where you need to go. Because sometimes if we're too firmly rooted to what we think is home and the place we think of as home, we don't grow as a person. We don't go and do what we need to go and do if we're too firmly rooted. So it's good to get shaken up and uprooted sometimes. It helps us move to the next phase of life where we really need to go. So we look at it as an overall positive thing, even if emotionally at first it's a little something to adapt to. The other thing to do, kind of the internal work to do, is in this area where Capricorn hits your chart, which is the 12th house. It's really the stuff that takes place in your psyche, in your emotional world, in your spiritual world, in your mind. You've been hosting Saturn and Pluto for quite some time. That is a tough duo to host in your mind and in your emotional life. You're just like, they're just hanging there like these two heavy, heavy weights. And you've been dealing with this and managing this. And only you can tell us what that's been like. And it's probably been somewhat different for different people, but it's a lot to have hanging in there in your emotional world, in your heart. It's just a lot to carry. And so you've evolved and adapted to this somehow. It's brought you to where you are now, and I imagine you've changed a lot over the last 10 years. That your emotional life has changed tremendously, your mental life has changed tremendously, and you've been on a journey. So only you could really tell us what that's been like, but I don't imagine it's always been easy. I do think that one thing you've discovered, most of you, is that you have an enormous amount of internal power. That maybe at the beginning of the journey weren't willing to quite see just how internally strong you were. Just how strong you really, really are. And this is not some kind of brittle strength, like rigid strength, but it's like this resiliency and these reserves that you didn't even know you had until you were tested with these two planets in here. So there's a kind of internal strength that's very, very impressive, and hopefully it's impressing you, most importantly, because we can't even see it really. Maybe people can see what you've been through if they know you well. We can't see this necessarily. We'll begin to see it when Saturn comes out and goes into your sign. We'll begin to see it when Pluto comes out and goes into your sign. But we can't even fully see it yet. But boy, it's in there. You're strong, and hopefully you see how strong you are. And again, it's not that brittle, I'm so strong, I'm so strong. It's more like, kind of a willowy, resilient, like, able to adapt and deal, able to shift and pivot when needed, and it's more like a strength that's more like a resiliency for most of you. If there are Aquarius people out there who are still struggling to be that rigid kind of strong, this is where you need to just let go, to learn to let go of that. To let go of the idea of perfection, and to let go of the idea of staying like rigid strong, to realize that imperfection is strong. Being able to pivot and yield is strong. That being rigid is a false kind of strength, and to release and relax and let go of any intellectual conceptions of strength that you have. Like, I should be able to do this. If I were strong, I would look like this. This movie I saw once that had a strong person in it, I should look like this fictionalized version of strong. Some conceptual idea you have of strength and goodness and adaptability that's just like a theory. To let that go. What if I was wrong? What if strength doesn't look like what I think it looks like? What if I remove all my preconceptions about what's strong, what's resilient? If I remove every definition I know, everything I've ever been taught, and I just sit with myself for a few minutes, can I sense just how amazing I am? Would be kind of an assignment, like in my coaching world, because I'm also a coach. That's the kind of question I would be asking you to ask yourself. What else can we say here? I feel like there's a message we haven't touched on yet. Let me think. You may have some confusion around where you want to go in your career, like the future of your career. There's some confusion here. the theme that would help you most is to realize that you have this, in addition to the tremendous mental capacity and resiliency you've had to build up within yourself, part of that purpose may be to do something else in the world, to have gone through what you've gone through in your lifetime, and to get to this point. If you're still here, living, breathing, listening to this, watching this, you're strong. And you've been made strong. It's like you've been forged. But again, it's not the brittle, like, I'm so strong. It's the resilient, soft, strong. If you understand what I mean by that kind of conditioning enables you to go out into the world and do some cool stuff. So it would be really great for a lot of Aquarians to think about how they want to improve the world. How can you, to seriously ask yourself, how can I as an individual improve the world? And what could I change? What could I do in my career if I really, really want to improve the world? What if I as an individual have so much strength and impact that I as an individual could actually change the world if I did something different? What could that be? And to look at yourself, no matter what you do, is more like a healer. Even if you're not in a traditional, what you think of as a healer practice, you could be, I always pick on bankers, because I don't even know if there is such a thing as a banker. There are people who work in banks, but there's not really a banker. But let's say you're a banker. You can approach that job as though you're a healer. You can treat people with such compassion, people you encounter in your daily life. You can just, by being your loving self, can go into the world of banking and be a healer. So you can bring this energy of healing into anything you do, but there may be some kind of profession you would more like to do. Maybe it's through the arts. Maybe you want to shift and be more artistic and somehow bring what you have to give the world, pull it through creative products. You pull it through this idea of being creative. Or maybe you do become more of what people think of as some kind of healer. But if you're confused and you've been racked with confusion for years, this is part of the problem, is that you're not understanding your role in our current time. We're all here to do something. There's a very powerful message for an Aquarius person right now, that they're here going through what they've been through. You've had to go through what you went through and survive that so that you can be the powerful healer you're meant to be. And it could be through the arts. It could be through the world of banking. I don't know. Only you can really figure that out. But I think the way you clarify and finally, move the mists aside and the fog aside, because you've got, Neptune sitting in here, by coming more from your heart. If you're trying to, with your head, figure out what to do with your career world, it'll just be a massive mist and fog. If you're coming from your heart, there's clarity. So that's the way to figure out how to move forward in the world of business, is through your heart. There's no confusion in your heart. If you do feel confused, it's because your head is fighting with you, moving, like trying to make decisions through your heart. If you remain confused, I guarantee you, if you were working with me as a coachee, we would be able to detect that you're still trying to use your head, because you are an air sign. You are one of the signs. I mean, all signs do this, but certainly the air signs would resist the most trying to think with their heart, or think with their gut, or think with their shoulder, which you actually could do. It's like, like in a coaching exercise, you could actually think with your fingers. You could think with anything other than your head and your mind and your intellectual brain. But I think those exercises are the hardest for the air signs. But it's kind of like, this is what's being asked of you, to learn how to do this. Because the combination of your brain power, this amazing resilience power, soft power that you've gained, it's like you've been given magical tools. And if you could only then think through your heart it's like you turn into this amazing being that can do amazing things. So it definitely serves you and all of us if you do this. So I'm very invested in you doing this because I think it would help all of us. All right, take care.